In these jam over any song videos, I like to just talk about how you can improvise over any song. So today we're going to talk about Where Is My Mind by the Pixies. This has a cool chord progression and it's got a cool little riff in it that we can play off of. But if there's any other songs that you want me to do a video on, put it in the comments below and I'll try and make a video on it. But what we like to do here is we like to talk about a little theory. We like to talk about the scales we're using, some of the notes we're targeting, and just kind of how we can kind of make a melodic improvised solo. And I'm going to try and keep this improvised. So there's definitely going to be some mistakes in here, but this is kind of my approach to it. And I've played this in a band with this kind of idea. I've played it solo, acoustic, live with this kind of idea. And I think it's a cool little solo way to approach this. And, I'm into the jam bands and stuff. I like to add solos and have fun when I'm playing guitar. So, even if there's not a solo in the original song, we can talk about it here. Because we're not going to play anything note for note, I'll tell you that. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the chord progression. So the main chord progression for the verse is E to C sharp minor to G sharp major to A. And it goes like this. And just to talk about that chord progression, so your E chord is your 1, your C sharp minor is your 6, your G sharp, the reason I emphasize that it's a major chord is your 3, but your 3 is typically minor, so they chose major here. So that would be your 3 major. And then you have your 4 chord, which is your A chord, and that is a major chord. So that 3 major chord kind of gives this a cool vibe, right, that you got. And then over that chord progression is this riff idea. And this riff is very iconic to the song. It makes it stand right out. And the riff goes like this. And what that riff is, you got your 5th fret on your B string, you got your 4th fret on your high E string, and you're just going back and forth between the two. And I kind of think of that in my head as 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then we're going to a bar here on the 4th fret of your B and E string. And so it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and then it kind of changes up here a little bit, but what you're doing is you're keeping that bar for these last 2 beats, and it's going to be like 3 and 4 E and 3 E and 4 E and, so it's a little quicker. And I play both the B and the E string there. You could just play the B string. The B and playing the B and the E string kind of give it a little more grit. And you're doing a little pull off at that 3 E and. You're doing a little pull off to that B string. So you're pulling off from your B5 to 4. And you're doing that twice. So the reason that's important, I'll give you an idea, is because we're playing off of that for our solo, and that is kind of how we bring the solo back around to finish it. So I got this on loop here. Throw a little more overdrive on. Probably gonna have too much overdrive, but we'll see. We're gonna put this on loop, and I'm gonna just play through the solo idea, and then we'll talk about it. So general idea is, you know, kind of play around with the scales around, but the main idea is use that riff to jump into your solo and use it to get back out. So what we're doing there is after you do the riff, you're just going right back to that 5th fret on the E string and you're holding it there for a little bit, and then you're going back to the 4th fret on that B string, and then you're going to the 6th fret on the G string. And you're giving it some vibrato, and then after you do that once, you can stay on that B string for a few. And you can play around with that. So you're just playing around with those 3 notes and trying to get a little idea going, right? And then you can come back to that idea later. And then that's just climbing up this scale right here. So the scale you're sitting over right here is your form 4 of your pentatonic. So you're either in your E major or your C sharp minor pentatonic. They're the same thing, and they both work great, amazingly enough. And I say we're in our pentatonic, even though I'm adding notes from the major scale. Like when you're adding this 4th fret here, you're adding your 7th out of your major scale. But it works, right? And you can make this into a major scale. I just like to think of it as a pentatonic scale, and then I add in notes where I want to. And after you get out of this idea, you're up within this scale, and you're now on the D string, and you know, you might want to sip a coffee. Well, not in the middle of your solo, but you know, I'm actually selling these mugs. Says I'd rather be playing guitar. And since I'm a nobody, you don't have to buy these to support me. I just want you to buy them if you like them. So, be perfect for work, you know, if you're sitting in a meeting or something. You can hold this up in front of your boss and kind of go like, you know. But if you don't like it, don't buy it. And then, you know, we're on the D string and we were on the 6th fret. And that D string 6th fret is your 3. So that's the G sharp. So when you go backwards, you're back to your E when you go down 2 whole steps, which is all just part of the scale. So now you're in your form 3 of the scale, which is just 2, 4, 2, 4, 2, 4 is the box we're using out of that on your low E through your D. So then you're back to your, once you're here, you can get right back to your E quickly, because I'm big on soloing with chord tones or trying to target some notes from the chords as they pass by. So when you're on your 3 and you end that phrase here, you're pretty much at the end of the chord progression. So if you go like this, now you're on top of your E chords playing, and then you could do a little walk down, little hammer on roll over to your 6, which is your C sharp. And then, you know, when you're doing that over your 6th chord, you're playing over your 6th chord, and then you can kind of do this 2, 4, slide up to 6, and now you're on your 3 chord, because the chord progression is 1, 6, 3, 4. And I might be losing you here, but if you can really start figuring out the intervals within your scales and start attacking those over the chords, then you're in great shape. So right now now you're on your 3, and your 4 is always right next to your 3. So if you just want to add this in, just simple stuff, right? But if you know what notes you're hitting, it's going to sound good over it. So the ideas that I'm talking about are just, we'll let this play through. So what you're doing, I mean, you're just going from your 1, hammering down to your 6, over 2 frets. So you're hitting your 2, 3, 4, and then you're going back to your 1, and then this would be your 2, and you're sliding up to your 3. And these are intervals I'm talking about, not frets. So this would be 1, 2, 3, and your 3 is your G sharp. And then, you know, since you're playing this with the little to your 3, then you can just add your pinky on to the half step above on your 7th fret on that D string. So then you're just playing 7, now I'm talking frets, 7, 6, 4, 2. And you can hear how that resolves back to the 1 because your E is your 1. You're walking back down the scale, which would be, if you're not talking frets and you're talking intervals, it's 4, 3, 2, 1. 4, 3, 2, 1. I mean, you can hear it. And that's just an idea, right? So you're just bouncing between your form 3 and your form 4. So far, you're adding in your 4 because your 4 is not in your pentatonic scale, it's in your major scale. Learn your major scale over your pentatonic scale. Learn your intervals within your scales. Then you can start always knowing where you are. So that's just an idea, and you can just bounce between any of this stuff, right? And, you know, or you can go from down here. And then you're down into your form 1. So you're going right through your form 5. This would be your form 5. And you're going right through that. And you're in your form 1, which is right here, starting on your 9th fret. So it's 9, 12, 9, 11, 9, 11, 9, 11, 9, 12, 9, 12. And that's where everybody's more familiar. Right? So once you're down here, you got your 1 right here on the G string at the 9th fret. You got that same lick right here, right? So your G string 9th fret, hammering from your 9th fret up to your 11th fret to get to your 6, and then go back to your 1 on that G string. And it's that same idea. Because you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you got it right there. So your 3 is always below it's below your 1 when you're on your G string, right? In this form. So it's right here on the 9th fret of your B string too. Same type idea there. That whole lick is right here too. So it's like. So I didn't do this in the little improvised solo, but you can certainly play around with your 1 here too. Not like that. So it's all right there, because what we're doing on this is you're going from 1, 7 to 6. 1, 7, 6 is that idea. So you can do that down here and you can get it back, but you know, you can play around within this pentatonic scale. And you know, if you're attacking chord tones, it's going to sound better. And then what I like to do after I'm done messing around down here is kind of just make my way back. Back down to maybe form 3 or form 4. And then when you're playing around in form 4, when you're ready to get out of the solo, you go right back to this idea. Because listeners are going to recognize it, you're going to recognize it, and you're going to be like, that was cool. What I just did there, that was cool. And it doesn't have to be this exact stuff. This is just a general outline idea, right? You play around, jam around, try and have these melodic type ideas. Because it's more pleasant to me than, you know, just kind of messing around and playing around a pentatonic scale without really any idea. So you try and get these melodic ideas. And then when you do that one time or 2 times, whatever you want to do, you go right back into this riff. With your feet on the air and your head on the ground. So that's pretty much it. That's at least my approach to soloing over this. There's a million different ways to solo over anything. If you like this lesson, you want more stuff like this, let me know any songs below. Please hit the subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. But yeah, I mean, I just like to approach things by trying to make it melodic and target chord tones. And I think the more you can do that, the better you're going to get. And the less you need to worry about shredding. I mean, of course, if you're a shredder and you love that stuff, that's the type of music you listen to, then go for it. That's never really been my style. Not very good at it either because I don't practice it that much. I go more for the melodic targeting chord tones type thing. That's kind of my approach to music. So if you dig it, thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.